Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Fatema Dhanani and I want to start by asking you two questions. So my first question is, we're only going to take 30-45 seconds to do this. Who do you look up to and why? Raise your hands and I'll call on the first person. Who do you look up to and why? Sayada? Your mom? Okay. Anyone else? Who do you look up to and why? Sorry? Okay, and if you can tell me, who do you consider to be a great leader in your life? Who do you, or wherever in the world, who do you consider to be a great leader? Show of hands. Someone? Sure. In general, you tell me. When you think of leader, who? Imam Ali. Okay. Anybody else? Right at the back. Yeah. Imam Zamana, wonderful. Okay, thank you. I want you to keep those responses in mind when we go through this talk, okay? So, when I think of great leaders, the ones that that we get buzz talked about, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the President Magufuli, President Nyerere, Steve Jobs, Phil Knight from Nike, Churchill, Michelle Obama. These are all the first names that come into the conversation when you think leaders. And why? They say that great leaders have vision, they communicate well, that they're balanced, that they are open-minded. And you have all of these buzzwords. But often the people that we look up to are those who we aspire to be like, those who serve as our role models, and we call them leaders. But every once in a while, you meet exceptional leaders, those who are removed from the traditional standards of leadership and instead strive to create a leader out of everyone. So, when I think of exceptional leaders, who do I think of? I think of my friends, my family, you guys, everyone that is sitting here. Because the truth is, if I think about what makes an exceptional leader, I don't think of all these people that I hear about or I read about. I think about the people that are teaching me certain qualities that make me more compassionate, that make me have more empathy, that make me relate to people on a one-on-one level. Not who are so far removed that, I feel like I look up to them, but I can't be with them, or I can't talk to them, or I can't ever be like them. So, exceptional leaders, my teachers, my coworkers, the people I work with, the people who I just see on the street, or who I hear one day randomly on a video. Not necessarily people who are famous, but people who really teach you to connect with another human being. So, I'm involved in a lot of projects. Growing up, I was involved in student council, I did drama, I did theater, I played sports. Now I work as a marketing manager. I am involved in community work. So I get to meet with a lot of leaders, and I also have to play the role of a leader. And the one thing that I've learned is that the one thing that the people around me have taught is how to lead with compassion. And how do you do this? First thing, listening versus hearing. When you hear, you take one thing from here and you remove it out here. You've not really listened to what someone has had to say. What is the message that they're trying to give you? When you listen, you become someone who is able to respond to somebody else's needs, wants, visions better. Because you've heard what they've had to say, you've processed it, you've understood it, and now you want to support them to do that. You want to work with them to do that. So listening versus hearing. This is something that my sister taught me. Second thing, teaching, learning, and feedback. Oftentimes you see that we give something in and we're told it's great because nobody takes the time to actually look at that piece of work or to actually say, hey, I have 2 minutes, this is what I really thought. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's constructive, when you take the extra time to talk to somebody about how can they be better, what did they do well, and what can they do next time, they know that you've really been there for them in those 2 minutes. And you really listen to them and you want them to be better. You're encouraging them without actually even saying that you're encouraging them. As a leader, we often are told we have to teach, we have to give out knowledge, or we have to share our wisdom. But a big part of leading is learning. And we see that when we teach kids, when we work with younger people, because the truth is, the older we get, the less open we are to the magic, to dreams, to different ideas. But when we work with younger people, they open our brains up, they opened our minds up, and we're once again in touch with the abstract, with the emotional, with the fun, the things that make life worth living. So you teach and you share your wisdom, but take some time to also learn from the people that you're imparting your wisdom to. And this is something that that I've learned from my teachers, because the one thing that they did really well was not just to talk to me, but they talked with me, you know? So you don't talk just at someone, but you talk with someone, you discuss with them. Third thing, positive incentivizing versus negative. Changing our language to read positive versus negative. Not if you don't do this, you can't do this. It's if you do this, this is the opportunity for growth. When you tell someone, oh, if you don't manage to get this done, you don't make it to the next round, or you won't be given this opportunity, they're less likely to be able or to even want to do something, because anyway, we all know we face insecurity. So when you tell someone, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, but these are the opportunities for growth, or this is the way forward, regardless, you're making them want to do better. You're making them want to get better. Fourth, your character and your akhlaq. Your akhlaq is half the message received. It doesn't matter if someone doesn't like what you're saying, but it matters so much how you say it, because even if they don't like you and they don't like your message, when you say something with character, with manners, with respect, they're more willing to listen to you. The last two, admitting when you're wrong or not knowing something, it makes the other person relate to you. And the sixth one, recognition and gratitude. So where I work, we have a recognition policy. It allows people the chance to recognize someone in the daily life, you know, over a couple of months, for even little things. Things like great customer service or getting a project done on time. Showing gratitude and recognizing someone for their work, again, is positive reinforcement. So 6 elements of great leadership, exceptional leadership. But you know me, I love my poetry, so I'm going to finish with a quick poem. And this poem is for exceptional leaders who cultivate each other, and make leaders that do so much good within their communities. Leaders who inspire, who cultivate spaces for growth and goodness, whose voices can be heard in the smallest corners of the world, but are never too loud to drown out those of others. Leaders whose hands uplift and hold others strong, and whose words empower. Leaders who stand tall, but make sure that their shadow never overshadows others. Leaders who don't just hear, but make sure to listen to. Leaders who care less about their legacies and have more importance over what kind of world they're leaving behind for their children. Leaders who are respectful and open-minded, who have vision and whose words are always followed by action. Leaders who have empathy, who feel the pain of others, who bring light where there is darkness. Leaders who look at a mountain and think of struggle and accomplishment alike, who, on their journeys, open doors for those also on the ride. Leaders who don't give up, but more importantly, who never give up on you. Leaders who encourage change, who embrace diversity and difference, who strive to create just and fair communities, and who have great regard for the value of all life. Exceptional leaders are those who have heart, whose wisdom is understood by all, and whose intentions are pure. Leaders who make mistakes and own up to them too. Leaders who may not know it all, but are willing to learn along the way. Who share knowledge and who educate, who level the ground where it seems uneven. Leaders who understand friendship and that kindness doesn't cost a thing, that sharing is caring, and in the end, we're all just human beings. Thank you, that's all from me today.
Great speech. And I like the point where you talk about everyone is a leader. But what is your perspective about leadership and ego?
Leadership and ego?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, ego is a barrier to great leadership. I think that even if you have something valuable to impart and to share, you know, to be honest, I believe in energy. So a lot of the time, if you have an ego, whether you show it directly or not, it really comes across in the people that are surrounding you. So that's why I said in terms of manners and character, if ego gets in the way of the amazing and valuable things that you have to say, I think it doesn't bar the person getting something from you, it bars you because you have so much to offer.
Awesome. So what about ethics then?
I think there's, if you're relating it to your question on ego, there's a fine line between ethics and ego. Because like I said, ego doesn't mean, drawing the lines where there needs to be, or being able to, pinpoint important points or valid points. Again, we're not talking abstract, we're talking about rules, regulation, that kind of thing, right? So I think you can still do those things without having an ego. And I think the way that you impart ethics or that kind of information, how that information is received has a lot to do with how you give it. And it doesn't need to have ego in it.
Thank you.
So that's an amazing poem. I'm a big fan of your poetry, so well done. I want to put you in the shoes of you being led by someone.
Me being led by someone?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe there's a leader, not necessarily that you look up to, but you could potentially look up to. But there's a belief that they have that you don't agree with.
That I don't agree with.
That you don't agree with.
Okay.
What would you do in that situation? Would you give up to be led by that person, even though there are benefits from it? Or you would compromise and be led by that leader? Or you would make the changes that you want to see? Sorry, it's a bit philosophical.
That's okay.
But you are philosophical, so there we go.
Okay, so let me just understand the question. I am being led by someone, or someone I consider a leader. They have a belief that I don't necessarily agree with. Do I compromise? Or what do I do in that situation is the question. Okay, great. So there are a lot of people actually that I very much disagree with, who I respect a lot and I look up to. And I think what you do with that person and that belief really depends on the situation. So first thing, if you don't agree with that belief, you don't need to bring it on to you. Like they say, right? You take the good, you leave the bad. You also have to do what's good for you as a person. So I think that when you look up to someone and you respect them, there are people in history that we look up to, not necessarily for humanity reasons, but because generally they're thought of as powerful and people that you can learn from, strictly, putting the good and bad aside. In a similar way, if I was in a situation and I didn't agree with someone and their beliefs, it doesn't, working with people who you disagree with makes you a better person, which in turn makes you a better leader. When you know how to deal with people who don't always say yes, or who don't always have the same thoughts as you, makes you a better communicator, makes you more open-minded. You're able to have difficult conversations because you've already been in that situation. Personally, on a belief level, I don't think you should ever compromise on your beliefs, but I do think that there's a place for everything. And if you do choose to keep the peace sometimes, or if you choose to do something, it doesn't mean that you've lost yourself. I think, maturity and understanding comes from knowing where to do what. And again, that also leads into being a good leader.